is being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
That's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Yes, what is going on, Bolt fam? Welcome to the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Andy Prophet here, joined as always by Alistair Lloyd and Jack Reed. Boys, thank you for joining me. We have proper football to discuss. Bitter pill to swallow, second edition of the Herbert Tour Bowl. Lots to unpack from week one. But that's the silver lining of the NFL season, isn't it? There's next week to look forward to. There's more football. Long way to go. We're going to take a look at not only what went down at SoFi Stadium on Sunday, but also the Tennessee Titans in our Week 2 opponent. And we'll throw in a little bit of a fun discussion, some propositions to one another. So stick around, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get stuck right into it, shall we? Miami Dolphins 36, Los Angeles Chargers 34. It was always going to be a battle of two elite offenses. Which defense would stand up to the onslaught? Immediate concerns watching the Cheetah and the Penguin shuffle through and shred the Chargers defense before a handy goal line turnover let the powder blue of SoFi breathe a sigh of relief. Or in case of those 4 AI bots, well, they had no emotional clue what was going on at all. Opening offensive stanza looked pristine. Glad you like that one, Jack. Maybe a question could be asked for the Gerald Everett on the sweep, but the new offensive guru, Kellen Moore in town, clearly had some tricks up his sleeve. From there, it was an absolute slobber knocker. Hard to stomach the 20-17 halftime deficit. Everything they could do, we could do better, or so it seemed. Defensive brain snaps aside. Chargers came out firing in the third, regaining the lead, but whenever the Bolts landed a blow, the Finns answered right back. Even an end zone INT wouldn't break their stride. Guess it helps when your star CB1 decides to bring it out to the 4-yard line and put your offense all sorts. Sustained drives, maintained possessions, they just weren't enough to grapple the athletic freak show that is the Miami offense. Simply put, the Chargers came up against a great football team that played one heck of a game. Tua threw for 466 yards and 3 TDs. Hill had 215 of them and 2 scores himself. Herbert, 228 yards, a touchdown in the air, a touchdown on the ground, accompanied by a run game that netted 233 yards and 3 TDs for themselves. They always say the close ones hurt the most. Al only had to look across the couch at yours truly struggling to suffer what was a savage way to start the season 0-1. A pretty sad way to honour the late Hall of Fame head coach Don Coryell and retire the numbers of Charlie Joyner and Kellen Winslow. Guys, I hate this expression, but learn from it and let's move on to Tennessee. Jack, hit me. What do you got?
Boy. I watched this one with little Molly in my arms, and dare I say, she got a good taste of what supporting the Chargers is, which is very disappointing. Let's start with some positives from me anyway. We go through and we look at the game and we write down what's important, what's challenging, what's interesting, and what questions we have. So I'm going to start with important. And that was the positivity I saw in not only Kellen Moore's offense, but more specifically, the balance of the type of run game that the Chargers pulled out. Josh Kelly, ran for 90 plus yards, 5 in the zone and 10 in a gap scheme. Eckler, 8 in a zone and 8 in a designated gap scheme. So only 6 total targets as well for the running backs, which shows me that Kellen Moore has been able to empower that offensive line with some fantastic zone blocking concepts, with some fantastic gap blocking concepts. And it seemed that both Eckler and Kelly knew where the holes were going to be. They were very proactive, bursting inside, bursting outside. It was like 5 yards per run. I haven't seen that from a Chargers offense in a very long time. So Thank you very much, Kellen Moore. We'll get into some other parts of the offense, but that's what I wanted to start with. And well done to the offensive line too.
It's that marrying of the type of runs you want with the offensive line. And wasn't it nice to see Rashawn Slater out there?
Oh,
Wowee. We missed him last season. It was that obvious. And I thought absolutely, like without a single exception, each offensive lineman had a really solid game. From Sawyer to his first game playing a right guard, I thought Corey Linsley was run blocking as well as he has for a long time. And it just seems like they had this real uniformity of purpose where they knew what was expected. And what that allowed our backs to do is just play off instincts. And I thought Josh Kelly had his best game of his career. And we barely mentioned
his best game of his career.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then Austin Eckler just, ridiculous. So I agree, Jack. That was a clear, one of the few, perhaps, positives of the game. I'll take it in a slightly different direction. The play calling, so still offensively, I thought it's kind of a bit of both worlds. I thought the positive of the play calling was Kellen Moore resisted the temptation to get pass happy and was happy to just play off what Vic Fangio was presenting to him. So they had two deep safeties the whole time, and Kellen Moore did not get bored with just going, okay, you're going to play deep safety, we're going to run it. And I feel like that requires quite a lot of discipline from a play caller. You've got these weapons. You've talked about explosive passes all year, but he stuck to his game plan, and the offense didn't let us down, that's for sure.
Yeah. I thought the diversity of the passing game, like you've touched on, was definitely interesting. It wasn't just boring Joe Lombardi stuff. Although Keenan Allen receiving behind the line of scrimmage, Gerald Everett on a sweep, sometimes it kind of irked me. But look, the balance was great. And look, you could argue that maybe we left it sort of too late to let the passing game unfurl. And then in that sort of those last couple of drives, it was quite obvious that Vic Fangio was like, ha ha ha, welcome to the Casa de Fangio. It's game over, fellas. And it really was, at the end of the day, Chargers couldn't get a pass rush going. At times, the run defense looked great. At times, it did not look good at all. I'd like to also say, don't overlook the value of Dicker's 50-yard field goal. That's a big point of mine. Is a career long for him. The coaches back him in. He's the guy, and it's a big tick on the personnel decision by letting Dustin Hopkins go to Cleveland. So good. What did we think of the defense? Now let's go run defense first, because I'm sure we're all going to absolutely boil the kettle on how we went in the pass game. What did you think? I thought on paper it looks good with 70 yards on 20 carries at 3.5 per attempt. I think that's very misleading for mine. There were moments where we looked like we could threaten, and there were moments where they were just going 12 yards easy regularly, and we're missing tackles from the linebackers, couldn't get a stop through the middle. The tackling from the defensive backs in both aspects of the defensive game was pretty woeful. Either of you got any particular takes on the run defense?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to challenge you on a couple of things there, Andy, that you've just said, and sort of cover a bit of ground as well. I was going to click the flag, but not challenge in that I disagree, but just with some numbers. Just let's quickly go back to the offense, is that, we talk about maybe the offense not throwing the ball enough and not having rhythm to actually convert at the end of the game. Beggars can't be choosers, right? The ADOT of Justin Herbert is 7.5 yards. Only 7 games last year that was higher. Average last year was 6.9, so we're 0.6 yards above. Big time throw rate was 2.7%. I know it's only 1 game, but if you look at that, that's trending perhaps in the right direction, perhaps in the wrong direction. 2020, it was 4.9%. 21, it was 3.8. 22, it was 3.1. So it's trending downward, and perhaps that was that lack of deep ball throwing because of the too high scheme. But as I said, beggars can't be choosers. The run game looked good. You did also say that, and a lot of people on Twitter have been saying that the pass rush was it's not there, it was shit. So I actually did some thinking and looking at the numbers, and it's not as impotent as we think.
Yeah.
Perhaps on screen it didn't look great, but per PFF there were 17 total pressures that equated to 16 hurries on tour. Mac had 6 and Bosa had 4. Just a bit of a comparison of some other numbers around the league. Green Bay, who totally dominated the Bears, had 36 hurries. Dallas had 39. Those are the two dominant defenses of the week. Cleveland, Philly, and San Francisco. You've got Cleveland with 17, Philly with 23, and San Francisco with 29. Now, I'm not counting how many of those turned into sacks, but just be really careful.
Numbers, are they?
Yeah, so that's right. And everyone was saying it was Bosa and Mac were shit. I'm not necessarily saying they weren't, but the numbers probably tell you that it was probably perhaps about average.
Yeah.
Run defense, and this is where a little more research went into it, and I'm starting to point the finger at one player in particular.
And say the same guy?
And does his first name start with S?
Yes, it does.
Unfortunately, Tooley, Johnson, Allen, Fox, Williams, and Scott Matlock all posted better run defense grades than SJD. 0 tackles, 0 assists, 0 stops, 1 pressure.
Blown off the ball.
As your number one defensive tackle, I don't know where that kind of leaves us. Alistair, I'll let you take over, but my question was kind of like, is the SJD experiment over?
Oh, where do we go? I mean, there's nowhere to go if the experiment's over. That's the problem. So this was a strategy predicated on limited resources over the off-season. We made choices on who we wanted to extend and retain, and the upshot was, here are your 2 defensive tackles, Staley. You signed them last year, Johnson and SJD. Those have got to be the guys. Them and some rookies and Morgan Fox, who we kept at a good price. And I didn't see anything to make me now confident that we'll see different results this year, because what I saw was deeply concerning, and that's before we even talk about the pass coverage, which we'll get to, and was a shit show. The thing about the defensive performance that pissed me the fuck off is there was no effort to speak of. It was an effort issue primarily, and I thought it showed in the tape early on. I thought there was a lack of intent to tackle, especially from the cornerbacks, but also from the linebackers and the interior defensive linemen. I reckon the only people who can walk out of that game with their head held high are Derwin, Alohi Gilman, JT Woods, Tooley, and Mac.
I agree.
They're the guys who I said, hey, you're trying every damn snap to tackle the bloke. The rest, serious question marks. And it starts with effort, then it becomes scheme and strategy and execution. But effort is an absolute minimum expectation in week 1. And I tell you what, if you don't bring effort to play against the Titans, they're going to beat your ass.
Yeah, you make Tannehill look like a god.
Sorry, clearly it's a bit to get off.
You're fired up, man.
A bit of steam to let off. A bit fired up.
I don't think that's going to be the end of the steam, to be perfectly honest.
First 10 minutes we were quiet as a mouse. Like, we're barely even talking. Listeners are like, are these 3 guys all right? I know Jack's got an excuse. He probably hasn't slept for 5 days. I haven't slept either, different reasons, right? But, this is cathartic for us. We've got to express what occurred. Sorry, Andy, you were gonna jump off the back of that.
Well, I mean, it begs the question. We spoke about this throughout the preseason. Does not playing your starters affect that intensity and that intent heading into week 1, where it is, for all intents and purposes, on a mental level, their first hit out, their first proper hit out? We know the Chargers aren't big on tackling and things like that. And the tackling showed. I think we had 9 missed tackles, and I feel like that's a pretty generous, a generous take on the stat, because
well, you can't miss one when you're not in the frame, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, we'll get to one in particular who looked like CJ Okoye had played more football than him, and he was taken in the first round a few years ago. It's really hard to watch that sort of play, and I brought up that point, Jack, about our run defense looking better than it was, because the fact of the matter is they didn't have to run the ball. Tua's his time to throw was 2.5 seconds. Like, you almost cannot generate defensive pass rush stats when the ball is coming out that fast, because the utilization of pre-snap motion from the Dolphins was exquisite. And you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle getting 4 or 5 steps before the ball snapped, coming from the other side of the field. They've got a head start, and we were torched from the back seven.
I'm just gonna throw some more numbers at you there, Andy, because over the weekend, Tua was actually 10th in terms of time to throw. So he actually wasn't at the top. Now, I'll give you some numbers here. Out of the quarterbacks that actually threw the ball consistently, Prescott, 2.11. He was the quickest out of this week's quarterbacks. 0 sacks. They dominated the Giants. Joe Burrow, 2.32 seconds. He took 2 sacks. Goff, 2.34, took 1 sack. Lawrence, 2.34, 2 sacks. Jones, 2 sacks. Dobbs, 2.46, 3 sacks. Herbert, 2.61, 3 sacks. So there is the argument to say that, it was amazing play design and the pass rush couldn't get home because of that. Numbers would suggest perhaps that pass rush was not particularly good. So I've kind of balanced the scales there a little bit. But
Jack, just one observation on that. I think good point. I think what might explain that is when he did hold on to the ball because they wanted to take some shots downfield, they did a good job at manipulating his launch point from the pocket. So I feel like the ones where he did hold on to it for 2.5 plus were those ones that are quite carefully constructed with maybe extra offensive linemen in or getting him off his spot. But then all the quick pew ones were like, take it and go. What a game plan. Like that game plan.
Outstanding.
Might be the best I've ever seen watching coaches film in the time we've been doing this. And you brought it up before, Andy. I've never seen such creative use of motion. It looked like an arena football league thing where your receivers are just mixing it up. And good luck us doing what we did last year. They saw last year our corners got their hands on our receivers at the line of scrimmage. How can we do anything to not allow that to happen? And we saw the fruits of 3 months worth of planning with Ronaldo Hill, who knows every one of our coverage rules, in the room with him for 3 months. You'd best believe they're going to be ready for this game. And the question, can you actually stop it as a DC? Is it stoppable?
There was no intent for our cornerbacks to even hit them at the line of scrimmage. I watched coaches film not that long ago. Tyreek Hill is essentially lining up on the line of scrimmage. He's not even lining up in the slot. He's actually on the arse of the right tackle, and he goes pew, lateral, and out he goes. And I just see the cornerback just not even attempt to try and stop. It's just in front of the face and gone, cut in. It's just... And the gap that I saw between our linebackers and our safeties was so vast. Staley talks about defending space, and it's all about defending gaps and space. This is what we do. My God, that was as big as the Wild West. And Tyreek didn't even have to do a double move on a slant. It was just like, I'm just going to drop in. The coverage was an amazing one-on-one, but man, I don't know how you stop that. It's just getting to Tua, and you got to get a pass rush that gets to him to disrupt him early, because he did underthrow the ball numerous times. There was that JC Jackson almost INT in that first or second series. Yep. So,
which he almost undercut that route out of nothing but. Like, that's all he could have done, because Tua was gone.
Behind. Yeah.
Tua was gone. Tyreek was gone, and he'd thrown that into double coverage. He was very lucky not to have that turned over. What Mike McDaniel did was turn that defensive display into absolute antithetical. Oh, Jesus, cook that one. But absolute opposite of what Staley tries to develop, and limiting the explosive play. We played a deeper safety, a deeper shell to try and close in on what we knew was going to be minimum sort of 14, 8 pass plays of 20 plus yards. It was crazy hard it's hard to watch as a Chargers fan, but it's almost inspiring to watch and exciting to watch as a neutral, which you kind of have to do. Once you get over the emotional damage of losing a game like that, you kind of go, okay, what are we looking at here? And is this Dolphins team the real deal?
Tua was so good.
Oh,
real good. Good.
And is Hill the best wide receiver we've seen in our time watching? I mean, we never really saw Jerry Rice, or we got a bit of Megatron and all that kind of stuff. But my God, JC Jackson. I talked about ADOT before. JC Jackson's ADOT was 19.9.
All right, let's have a discussion about JC Jackson, and I
could not believe that.
I'll put a couple of things out there for us to consider and jump in. First game back off a very severe injury, and if you just look at his kind of raw numbers, He was targeted 8 times and just allowed the 3 catches.
Yeah.
But they were 99 yards worth and a touchdown. And he had 2 of the worst brain fades from a, quote, veteran $14 million corner you'll ever see. So what do we do with JC Jackson? Has he played himself out of a starting role? Do you back him in? What do we think?
That is probably the hardest test to come back to in his first game back. To come up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And, you know, we're so focused on JC Jackson, and don't get me wrong, I really struggled to want to defend him with that. The 30-yard DPI just before halftime that gave them a free shot field goal to go in front, 3 points. That's what it came down to at the end. And running that interception out of the end zone, just I could have put my fist through the wall at your folks' place up in the hills, mate. That was just moronic.
Wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
First for me. What we have to not avoid is that Michael Davis wasn't great either. 7 receptions on him, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. Man, he was whiffing tackles left, right, and center. Once again, just didn't seem focused, just didn't seem energized to, you know, be there and kind of be able to focus on what Tua was doing, what his receiver was doing, get himself off a block in the run game. All round, I think, look, we're gonna lash at JC a lot more because we're paying him a bucket load of money, and it's been a massive talking point. Is what are we going to get back? Al, you've been very vocal on you can't come back from an injury like that. Not many players are able to reach the levels that they once were at after an injury like that. And did he look, I mean, like I said, it's a really hard test for him first off because you're playing against 2 of the fastest guys. And he did look a bit torched. He didn't look game fit at all. So easing him back into the fold without a preseason snap, sure, he was sort of getting his body right, but still played 2/3 of the snaps. And
Jack, should he have been put in that position? Should he have
But
been put in that position?
Staley's game plan didn't help them whatsoever. I looked at the communication and the difference between what I saw in the Fangio system versus Staley is that when there was motion and when Kellen Moore was sending Keenan Allen or Darius Davis or they're changing over, there was communication between their cornerbacks and their linebackers pushing and changing. Sometimes it was man that went into zone, sometimes it was zone that went into man. But you saw some of the windows early on that Justin Herbert was trying to throw to, and they just weren't there. Whereas, as I said before, I felt our defense looked very flat. Yeah. Kendricks and Kenneth Murray looked very flat-footed. There was a little bit of sort of pushing and saying, hey, you've got this, you've got that. But once that, and I guess the difference in McDaniel's motion was it wasn't pre-snap. It was kind of as the snap was happening. And if I'm being brutally honest, I'm going to take it off the players here because that's a coaching choice on the opposite sideline. Staley, you need to make some adjustments and talk to your guys about what's going on. How are you transitioning coverage assignments? What are you doing to the middle of the field? Because it didn't change throughout the game.
Look, I disagree. I thought there were adjustments made in the second half. I thought there were. Well, I know because I watched each snap. They've gone from not bracketing early to doing a bit more bracketing second, but I agree not enough. You need to bracket more when you see it's not working. There were just complete cook-ups. So JC Jackson, with that 33-yard strike touchdown he allowed to Tyreek Hill, he cannot allow outside leverage as a release on that play. I know it was really clever that McDaniel condensed the formation, so Tyreek wasn't lined up super far out wide. He brought him in slightly so he could get to the outside, right? But JC Jackson
generating himself some space. Yeah.
He's got Derwin James sitting there as safety support on the inside, and Staley said it in the presser, you can't allow outside leverage where you've got help on your inside, JC. You're a very expensive cornerback. That's just mental. That's just
But
dumb.
Why is it happening then? Is that just ignoring coach? Is that ignoring the coach? Is that not following instructions? That's going, I know better? And is this going back to something that really irked me? And this is a deep cut when we're watching All In, that first one, they get the captains in and then they have all these celebrations that they're doing after a play. And I'm going, whoa, that's an interesting way to G up your captains by showing them doing a little bit of showboating after they're making a play. I don't know. And then, don't even get me started, sorry, as a complete sort of branch there, how about Joey Bosa giving up a penalty the first snap of the game? Like, what's going on? And this is a continuation
on what could have been a turnover as well. It was an aborted snap.
Too much player empowerment. Is it?
I'm just the roots are a little bit starting to rot, I think. Anyway, that's just my.
I feel like after that penalty. Sorry to interrupt you, Jack. I feel like after that penalty, Joey just went absolutely AWOL. And I know you defended them. You defended the pass rush because I was pretty heavy on it, but Mac got around, but. Joey, man, for being on, high 20s, however many millions and millions of dollars you're on, you ain't playing like it, brother. Disappointing.
Made
Jack,
some
I'm going to ask you
adjustments too, but didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They got Jasir in, they benched JC, they gave Asante a go, he gave one up at the end, Jasir gave one up right at the end. It didn't matter who you put on. And they're like, well, maybe we should have made Dean Leonard active. He might be the only guy who can cover. Oof, who knows?
Surprising that he wasn't activated, considering he arguably had one of the better pre-seasons and camps of the younger DBs. That tackling was awful. 7 of the team's 9 missed tackles came from the secondary. Jack, I know you've been vocal about it today offline with the two of us. I'm just going to ask you straight up. Kenneth Murray, discuss.
From what I saw in the coach's film just earlier, I'm not sure what's going on. The game was just, again, too fast. He was getting caught up in blocks. It didn't seem like he had a great communication and great connection with Kendricks that much. Kendricks himself didn't have a great game either. He struggled to diagnose where the run was happening. The RPOs that Tua ran were very good. There were times when he just takes the wrong angle. It's a broken record. We've talked about it before. I don't know what the coverage assignments are. I don't know what the play calls are. But from an objective, well, maybe not objective, very subjective fan point of view, again, it's just too quick for him. And he's letting go on that the first touchdown, or is it I can't remember the play, but he just lets a guy get in behind him, and the ball's gone before he's even there. He needed to shift across and block that passing lane. So, Listen, you just hope that it was first game. Do we give them a pass? They haven't played any preseason. Give them a pass. That's okay. Not many fans I know listening to this podcast will do that. But
man, you're going to cop heat for that. There are no passes handed out for any of the Chargers fans after that. And we lost by only.
I'm not saying we do. I'm not saying we do. But,
I thought you were just saying, you know what? I'm a teacher, guys. I'm just going to pass you.
P's get degrees, mate.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The only pass I'll give to the linebackers is I do think this game plan didn't help them very much because of what you said, Jack. Not at all. The space between the safeties and the linebackers was just so vast that they're being expected to cover such a large amount of the field. So, look, when I look through the coach's tape, all I say is and I did it before I looked at any PFF grades, so it wouldn't colour my perception. They didn't stand out to me as you're the reason why we're getting screwed up today, guys. Now, I agree with everything you've said. They bit hard on play action and they didn't tackle well either. But I'm putting more blame on the defensive backs and the guys up front. And then the linebackers, it's a rock and a hard place. You're between two pathetic lines of football this week. And there's only ever 2 of you on the field, in the middle of the field, and you've got Tyreek and Waddle. So better chance for them against the Titans, who will run the ball more, and I think we'll really get to see how Kenny and Eric do thumping against that line of scrimmage trying to stop the run.
Alistair, can I just say, I've been tossing and turning in my mind. When we were doing this game prediction, did you say that the Dolphins were going to try and throw the ball more? Did you say that, or did you say that they're going to try and run the ball more? I can't remember what it was.
I said run the ball more. I said last time they would have seen it didn't work. They need to run it more, and that's what they'll do. And they did not do it.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I was trying to get, because it looked to me, with that vast space behind the linebackers, that they were prepared for a big run game. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to stop it. Anyway, yeah.
It just seemed to me I don't think it was that much of a change in personnel from when we played them 9 months ago. But the way that the defense last time was able to cover and protect the middle of the field, we didn't have that much space. Forgive me, I'm pretty sure, but I don't think we had that much space between the safeties and the linebackers. And Tranquil in particular was able to drop back into coverage and just put a body in that space and turn. If the slot on a crosser was able to go with the receiver, you had another body there, and you were almost bracketing in the soft middle of the field. I didn't see that at all, and we just continued to see Gilman and JT Woods playing, and then having to move forward sort of 9 to 14 yards instead of kind of 5. And look, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because if you sit those safeties further up, like closer, then Hill's got the speed just to go over the top, and Tua was on fire with that southpaw slang. Hard work. Is it, Jack? I'll go to you because Teron Armstead didn't play, and we thought that was a big opportunity for the Chargers. Not only did their gun tackle not play, but Jalen Ramsey's not in the lineup. Is this result a warning sign for the league? Is this you guys watch out? Because if we can keep Tua healthy and untouched without Armstead, and then our defense is not going to let up another 34 points, look out. I feel like I've severely underrated this Dolphins team, and it's, very, very early days to just flip back on my word, but God, I just don't see that. We just didn't look like we were playing reactive football a lot of the time, and
I can tell you what's different from the last matchup is that McDaniel has had another year in a head coaching chair, and he's probably also got some sort of super powered vape on the sideline that he's sucking really hard and giving him the superpower play calling. This is a warning shot because I think Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are only going to improve. Jalen Phillips was an absolute beast. Teron Armstead comes back. To be honest, with that game plan, you might not even need a superstar left tackle because you're playing that well. The only thing that's going to hamper them is very much a one-trick pony. Yes, Waddle had 76 yards, I'm going to say, anywhere between 70 and 80. But Tyreek gets injured. I'm not sure if a Waddle is the same type of player. Yes, he's got the speed, but has he got the experience? I definitely have underrated this team. And there's a listener out there who I actually, funnily enough, chat with who's a Dolphins fan, and he said, don't sleep on us, we're looking pretty good. So definitely, I'll call that one a loss for me. I was very much sleeping on them, as you said. So
I just think there was a good reason to sleep on those particular injuries. I mean, everyone wanted to love the Dolphins this offseason and thought they'd explode with Fangio and insert Ramsey and Armstead, but they've had awful injuries all through the preseason, and we just thought, maybe they'll start a bit slower, and that might... The big question is, does Tua stay healthy anyway? Good on them. We have to eat some humble dolphin. Before we wrap up, I don't want us to completely let the offense off the hook. And I just wanted to put some comments out there and feel free to piggyback off them. But when we went back to the drop back passing game, I couldn't see a hell of a lot of difference between this and the Lombardi offense. We're talking about a tunnel screen to Mike Williams, 2 swing passes to Keenan Allen behind the line of scrimmage, a shovel to QJ behind the line of scrimmage. Darius Davis played 2 snaps in the entire game. Quentin Johnson only played 20-something and Palmer played 52. We couldn't pick up the blitz 3 times, and Herbert's thrown an intentional grounding in the most important drive of the game. So it's not like they don't have stuff to work on. But I saw you shaking your head a bit there, my dear friend. What are you thinking about that performance on offense?
There are 2 dear friends here, Alistair. No. I'm agreeing with you. I actually wanted to throw a question your way then. Is the offense too stacked? Because what's Mike Williams going to do? What's Josh Palmer going to do? I mean, Josh Palmer, he played 50-odd snaps, 1 target, 1 reception for 4 yards. Darius Davis comes in. Gerald Everett needs to get touches. Austin Eckler needs to get touches. Dotson's there. Kelly's there. Are we too stacked? Can you be too stacked?
I don't think you can be too stacked. What I think you've got to remember as a play caller is there's a reason why there's higher EPA per play passing the ball than running the ball. You do not want to be a team that runs more than your passes. You get a exception because you played Fangio and this was clearly a game plan. And you know what? You scored 34 points. So I'm not going to come out and say it was the wrong thing to do. But you don't want to see that kind of balance of run to pass when you have Justin Herbert and all of these weapons. Would you rather go at 4, 5, 6 yards per attempt on the ground or 10, 15 through the air, right? 10 through the air. That's that give and take. Did we maybe weigh it too heavily, get too obsessed with the run? Because the argument would be you're running so efficiently, play action, baby, or let's hit some shots. Didn't really seem to happen.
Or is it trying to stop the opposition? Like a Mahomes, you run the ball, run the clock, control the game. Maybe that was the game plan.
Well, I think we smashed them in terms of, well, maybe not smashed them, but for how they were looking, they were averaging like 4 minutes a drive, and some of those were 80-yard scores, and we're taking 7 odd minutes off. So there was that element of, like I said in the intro, sort of just sustained drives and maintaining possession, but when the opposition is just so efficient, like there was a turnover there and 30 or 6 seconds, 35 yards, touchdown, bang, one play, see you later. And you're going, okay, we got to do a little bit more here. We got to start ramping it up. Jack, I'm going to throw to you for your teachable moment for this week, mate.
All right, we've done high analytical. Let's go a little bit philosophical here. Open your ears, enjoy the sound of my voice. It is a humbling yet also empowering day when those under your supervision begin to thrive rather than just survive in their jobs. Both Moore and Ficken put the team in a place to win the game due to their plans. The run game was maybe not perfectly, let's say placed. Let's just say the run game was placed to control the tempo of the game, eke out scores, take the ball away from Tua and McDaniel, and also diagnose that right side of the Dolphins field goal unit was leaky all day. Special teams did not make a big mistake, as is akin to what we sometimes do at the Chargers, and contained speed on the returns, no penalties. However, we've talked about it, that defense. Well, that is leader Brandon's unit. It is his scheme. It has his guys in it. It is not thriving as he wanted. In fact, his mentor's scheme was just as leaky. Is this defensive tree rotten at the roots in the modern game? A Bosa penalty on the first snap of the game might suggest some new seeds need sowing. Sometimes the things we think we are best at or we love the most, we hold too tightly. We struggle to get the distance from it to see things objectively because it is so tied up in who we are, our personality, our being. Staley was meant to be a defensive guru, is meant to be a defensive guru. It's in his makeup, his being, but perhaps his grip is too tight. He is suffocating it, killing it slowly while other systems and leaders around him thrive. What is the teachable moment? Is the scheme too difficult to implement? Is it not adaptive enough? What unconscious biases and mindsets are shaping what's happening? Possibly just let the players play, free it up a bit, go instinctual, relax, reflect. Nervous energy breeds nervous play. Go again. That was my teachable moment.
Cool. Nice, man.
Really good.
All right, a couple of awards, one from me, one from Al. I'm going to the Nah Yeah award. So what I deem was just great to see. And Al, you touched on it really nicely. I've gone a kind of combo because Austin Eckler is just so valuable to this team. Another super game, 117 yards and a TD on the ground, 4 receptions for 47, solid as always. But hot diggity dog, was it good to see Rashawn Slater back on that field and just bossing it at left tackle. So welcome back, son. Awesome stuff. Al, to you.
Amen.
I've been assigned the Yeah Nah award, which is something that starts off good and turns to dust. Whereas this is more like the Nah Yeah Nah award. It's going to Brandon Staley.
Ooh.
We had Nah, which was
Your
the
boy,
the Jacksonville disaster. That was one of the loudest and strongest Nahs you'd ever give as a Chargers fan. And then time passes, you forget, 6 months go by. And All In comes out the first episode and you start to think, yeah, this guy can talk a good game. This is the time to shine for his defense. Year 3 is when it usually clicks. Players seem motivated. You get Kendricks across. Yeah. And then You give up over 500 total yards in one of the most painful week 1 losses I can recall. I've copped it online. I've copped it. That is the loudest nah after an off-season of hope. Do you know why? There's now a misalignment between words and actions. The words about Kenny Murray playing at a winning level made in the aftermath of the game and again today suggests a misalignment between what you're saying and what I'm seeing. And when there's misalignment, that's where you start getting fans saying, I will find out where you live and I will burn your house. They'll say it. They may not do it.
We're not.
Or maybe
we're not saying that though, are we? No,
we're not saying it.
No,
but
good.
Riots, LA. These things happen. However, I'm not out, but I'm very much aware that I'm being made to eat my words, and I've got an ego, and I do not like that. So, you get the first award of the year, Brandon, and make it the last, please. Please, for my mental health and for the mental health of Chargers out there.
Good on you for just checking yourself as well. Look, I mean, I was in on Staley too, but what did you say earlier? Talk is cheap, motherfucker. If you're really feeling froggish leap, man, you gotta make something happen, because as I move on to the checking out next week, Staley knows he's so disappointed. He knows the fire is rising up the seat of his Burka Lounge. Defensive performance like that wasn't one to shy away from honesty in the presser. No, I don't think JC Jackson did have a good game. Not many, if any, of the back seven did. His adjustments didn't work out. And touch on our good friend Kyle's TDU mailbag question, the hair will be out the building soon if things don't turn around. And I don't think he'll be far to follow. Like, you just cannot be letting up 500 yards for being a defensive head coach in this day and age. It's not going to slide with fans. If we had more of a perhaps aggressive ownership kind of group, then you could see more cutthroat sort of actions coming. But look, we'll see. He's got a massive corner to turn. Moving right along though, from a personnel perspective, out of the week 1 game, it was good to see Mike Williams return to the field after that sort of off-the-ball head knock that put him in the tent. We saw Eckler kind of trot off a bit ginger. He pulled up sore after another physical run. He sort of kicks off the injury room list of absentees from Wednesday's practice. Joey Bosa, the guy made of glass. He did not practice with a hamstring injury, joining Chris Rumpf and Dion Henley as they still recover from theirs. Eric Kendricks was maybe a hamstring as well, but not active due to personal reasons. All right, Jack, over to you. What happened with the Titans in week 1, brother?
Listen, before I do say that, we're talking about fan bases and being let down and feeling let down. If you're Jets fans out there, man, I feel for you. I feel so sorry. Seeing Rodgers go down, and I immediately almost went, that's either an Achilles or an ankle. And then you saw the footage of it, the slow motion of his calf reverberate as the Achilles goes bang. Oh, poor guy. And then anyway, it can always be worse, right?
It's common knowledge that when the Achilles tears or ruptures, it makes like a gunshot kind of pop. Like, it is a super tight bit of connective tissue there that wraps around your ankle. And yeah, that slow-mo footage was nasty. It was kind of really sad as well to hear what Garrett Wilson said. Sorry, kid. Like, oh gosh. Yeah, well, I'm glad we're not Jets fans.
It can always
be doing worse. This show, that's for sure.
It can always be worse. Titans, I've just got a couple of notes and then we'll get on to Alistair with the strengths for the Titans. Loss 15-16 at Saints. Wasn't a great game to watch. Both defenses played relatively well. Passing game for the Titans wasn't very good. Tannehill 16 for 34 for only 198. only completed 47% of his passes with 3 INTs. Derrick Henry was clearly their best weapon. He received for 56 yards. His rushing attack looked okay. He lined up at wide receiver a couple of times. He lined up in the Wildcat a couple of times. So they're getting a little bit creative there. Rookie watch, I had a look at Skoronski. He had a really good game, both in pass protection and run, so good on him. Hopkins looked all right, nowhere near the nuke that we expect of him now, given his age, but he caught 7 for 65. He'll always be hard to stop. Funnily enough, I was watching for a lot of play action. We know that Tannehill's, that's one of his strengths. They only went play action for about 27% of his dropbacks. The offensive line, even though Skoronski had a good game, Tannehill was under pressure for over 40% of his dropbacks. 4 turnover-worthy plays. ADOT was quite deep, around 10 yards, took 3 sacks and only threw for 8 first downs. But, like Tua, did his work short and in the middle of the field, and dump-offs to running backs. He did not complete a pass of 20-plus yards. So kind of a stinker of a week, but that's what I kind of saw in the Titans game against the Saints. Al, Titans strengths.
Yeah, we were watching this together actually towards the end of the evening, just catching up on some around the league stuff. And
was it towards the end of the evening or the start of the morning?
Column A, column B. I don't know if you noticed the commentator at some point said, Taysom Hill's one of the best football players ever.
Oh my God.
He's like the perfect football player. We're going, okay, mate.
It was like listening to Trent Green in the Chargers broadcast. Oh,
spare us. Titan strength. They're a really tough football team who enjoy being physical. No surprises here, coached by Mike Vrabel. It kind of manifests on the field. There's actually a personality displayed on the field that matches the coach. Big difference you can see between our linebackers and their secondary players. They're wanting to hit you, all of them. They really enjoy it. Molden loves it. Hooker likes it. Now, he might not play because he's in the concussion protocol. Murphy Bunting comes down. The linebackers, they're willing and they're able. Their front is obviously their real strength. In this game, their pass rushers had 24 pressures, 8 to Arden Key, who's a new signing from the Jags, backing up a good season last year. Autry is a weapon. And Simmons probably had a quieter game, but he still contributed. He combined in, they had their 4 sacks. So their pass rush is lethal. We know that they were the best run defense team in the NFL last year. Again, they allowed only 69 rush yards on 27 attempts versus the Saints. So it's going to be a very different proposition this week for Kellen Moore's rushing attack. Can you do it against one of the best in the league? Yeah, there are a couple of obvious strengths, I think. Do you have any you'd like to add at all before we move on to their weaknesses, boys?
I just think highlighting Jack's point about Derrick Henry, 56 yards receiving, I think that was off 2 receptions. He's dangerous, man. And when you look at how our defensive backs and how our coverage guys tackled, man, that's a concern. I feel like that's going to be exploited. And also watching what Jalen Phillips did to Pipkins. I don't think Zion had the strongest start. He flashed. He had some moments that were good, but it's high alert for our pass protectors in this game. The Titans came out. They may have lost in a pretty grubby game, but like you said, Al, they have the intent and the energy to come out and play physical football, and that's what you need to do. You need to lay the hit early and just. Like
special teams, the first snap of the game, they get a turnover on special teams. Hooker just smacks that guy off the sideline. He's picked it up. Titans start with the ball. That's how you start your football season.
Absolutely. Crazy good. All right, I'll move on to the Titans' weaknesses and the opportunities that the Chargers have to exploit in week 2. Look, beyond DeAndre Hopkins, this wide receiver group is pretty much right where it was last year, and that's not particularly great. It's a really big redemption opportunity for the Chargers secondary. Ryan Tannehill, 49.1 PFF grade. Jack, you did mention that he did a bit of business over the middle of the field, and that's a big shift that we have to make. I don't think they really have the explosive speed to force our shell to sit so high. We can kind of come up, but the importance of just like the way that we were beaten with speed laterally against the Dolphins, we cannot let that happen again. 3 interceptions, that's opportunity for the Chargers. And god damn it, if you turn the ball, if we get a turnover in the end zone, just take the knee. We're crying out loud. Let's have a bit of football IQ with it and how we play defense. Yeah, on the Titan side of the injury list, Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins did not participate in practice today, the latter with an ankle issue, so we'll see what happens there. Christian Fulton, Tyjae Spears, and Tayer Tart all limited with their various concerns, so we don't want to play for them having injuries and being less than 100%, but, nice little tidbits for us because we need more than a 1-point win like the Saints had over them, and I think we can achieve that. Just less kind of shovels into the backfield from our slower receivers might be nice. Get Darius Davis in there because he looked hot shit on the jet sweep in the preseason. So, Jack, over to you. Keys to victory, mate. What do you reckon? What's the go?
The easiest one to say, difficult to execute, is contain Derrick Henry. So I'd be looking for big games, redemption games from Kendricks and Kenneth Murray.
And SJD.
And SJD. And also with Bosa and Max setting the edge as well. Not selling out, especially Joey Bosa, not selling out, setting the edge to try and get a sack.
Is he going to play?
But yeah, well, who knows? Hammy. And I'd also like to see... what McDaniel did is he picked on CBs. He picked on our CBs. He went... Good luck trying to stop Tyreek Hill, JC Jackson. We're going to throw it to him anyway. Can we do some of that? Can Kellen Moore go, Murphy Bunting? Sure. Murphy Bunting? Try and stop Keenan Allen. We're just going to go. Can we get a little bit angry? Because if we don't bring anger, if we don't bring fight, you're right, Vrabel coaches a very hard-nosed defensive team. And it's battle of the defensive coaches, right? Who's going to get the win? The other thing I've just got before I pass over to you, Al, for some keys to victory is, can we get some Quentin Johnson time? Can we get some short little slant routes in the dagger concept? Can we get him going? Can we get some speed? Let's try and blow this game out as quick as we can. Yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, it's a very different game to last week, right? It's polar opposite, really. Titans struggle to pass, like to run, and they can stop the run but can't stop the pass. It's the exact opposite keys. So we are now facing a pass defense that might be missing 2 starters. If Hooker's out with concussion and Christian Fulton can't get up with a hamstring, you're now looking at backups, and this is the time. This is where we're going to find out if it's the Kellen Moore bombs away offense, because I'm thinking right now you need to score 40 points on offense for our defense to win a game of football. I don't want to say that. It's only 1 week, but I now have no real confidence that the defense is going to come out and keep the Titans to under 27. That would be sad, because really we wanted to see them kept to under 24, but I don't know. We've just seen a record-breaking poor performance. So I want to see, like you said, Jack, the offense put a gap in this game early, so can we just breathe as Chargers fans for a bit to start the season instead of being in the cauldron already? I know we've done what we usually do, Andy. We've just covered all 360 degrees of
it's
the
perfect.
game plan.
That's absolutely perfect.
That's it. That's the key.
Yeah, we on the field, my highlight over, because I agree with what you're both saying. It's playing proactive football compared to reactive football, and that starts with the offensive, and that is back you guys, drop it in. Everyone was just banging the drum about, hey man, I got to tell you, this offense, we're going deep. We're throwing some big numbers. Oh yeah, show us. Walk the walk.
Love it.
Because didn't really see it, and we need to see it against a potentially shattered coverage unit that the Titans have. That's all from me in terms of keys to victory. I'm going to start us off with the result prediction. All hope is not lost. Keyboard Warriors away, please. Chargers win first road game of the season, 31-21.
Go, Alistair.
I've gone with the Chargers win by less than a score in this one. I'm right on the brink, though. This is one where my head is telling me, getting a vibe that Vrabel kind of coaches a good one. We beat them last year. We beat Miami last year. Do we go 2-0 against a good head coach? Or are we starting 0-2 and the fan base is really on fire? I'm going with my heart this week. One more time. just for me and all of the other listeners out there who need something good next week in their lives. Jack, it looks like you're about to put the dagger.
No, I'm not. I would love to say that we're going to win 40-17, but I'm going to have us under a touchdown, and I'm going to say 24-20. LA Chargers, bit of a slobber knocker. And that rounds out that.
2000 Microstar goes in the hole. Come on.
Buy, sell, or hold.
Alrighty, guys, time for a bit of buy, sell, or hold. Each of us will put a proposition to the group. Could be team, player, score, or betting related. Then the others will say whether they're willing to buy, take the bet, sell it, not take it, or hold and sit on the fence like I usually do. Al, let's start with you, brother.
All right, this is a good one. Aaron Rodgers will never take another snap in the NFL.
Oh. Yeah, that was one of my ones. And it's I'm gonna hold as ridiculous as that seems, because I saw a little infographic thing on Instagram today, and it was essentially Brett Favre, hero of the Packers, gets injured at the Jets, ends up at the Vikings, and I sent it to Packers Dan. I don't think he's responded yet. I think he's probably just going to say you're off the Christmas card list, which is fair enough. But look, for his second trip into the darkness tent in, a few months' time, I'm going to hold on that.
I am going to sell into the subway darkness. I will have the amazing healing recovery powers.
Ivermectin, right?
Yeah, he'll come back. He's got some unfinished business. He knows that team is built for him. He knows that team, that Garrett Wilson, is something special. And I believe he's going to come back, and I think he'll take them on a deep playoff run. I hope for Jets fans. Look at me supporting Aaron Rodgers. I'm a new man. I'm a father. I'm a new man now. I'm going to sell that. I think he will come back.
Okay. Andy.
All right. You go, Jack.
Okay. Mike Williams will be traded before the deadline.
God, you guys are stealing mine all the fucking time.
I'm selling that take. No.
Before the deadline,
this GM, no. We're lucky to cut people who deserve to be cut or trade them. I'm selling that take.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm selling it too. I'll just go with... I had a slight different one because I did actually think the whole before the trade deadline, but I think Joey Bosa and Mike Williams will be the two big money guys at the Chargers to get moved on at season's end. Buy, sell, hold.
Yep, I'm buying it.
No, I'm selling it. I think they keep Bosa and lose Mac. That's my prediction. All right, back to me. Josh Allen had 33 turnover-worthy plays to lead the NFL last year. After 4 turnover-worthy plays in week 1, he'll lead the NFL again this year in turnover-worthy plays. What say you, Andy?
I buy that because I think since 2018 he leads all players with 86, and it's just becoming a really bad habit of his.
Look at that.
It's becoming a real bad habit of his. Jack, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I will buy that. I like the way he plays the game, but I'm not sure if Stephon Diggs is going to hang around that either, so I'm going to buy that. My next one, this was a painful watch because I have a very, very soft spot in my heart for this player. The Bears have ruined Justin Fields' career.
That's it. Blanket statement.
That's it.
It's the fun of it.
I'm holding because if I'm a better in a market, I need a bit more qualifying info. So I'm holding that one, but very much open after week 1.
I'm going to sell that. I think even with the defensive head coach, I think he's just still got too much natural talent to have his career ruined by that franchise. All right. Al, one more from you.
Sure. All right, gonna pick my best little one. Everybody go there, buy, sell, buy, hold, sell. All right, just before the stock market closes, either Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones will be benched at some stage during the 2023 regular season. Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones benched.
No, I'm going to sell that. I don't think either of them. Daniel Jones has just been paid. No way. He's a young quarterback. Daboll will not want to ruin his confidence. And I think Kirk Cousins has done enough for me that I think he'll want to play through a contract. Whether he's on the Minnesota Vikings at the end of the year, that's another statement entirely. And I don't think someone like Justin Jefferson would want a second-string quarterback ruining his amazing start to his career, because that would just create disharmony. So, yes, I'm selling that statement.
I'm going to sell it too. And I'll finish off with one last one, because I think that the blame goes elsewhere. The Giants' offensive line will cost Big Blue a spot in the playoffs this year.
Woo.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy it.
I'll buy that. I'll buy it.
I thought they were a kind of reversion candidate anyway. Kind of overperformed last year, and that line looks leaky.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough going for Brian Daboll.
Yep.
Oh well, guys, lots to look forward to heading into week 2. It is a must-win because week 3 we're heading over to Minnesota, second road game in a row, and things could get nasty. So, put all your good vibes out there. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bolts up. And we'll see you next week on the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast.
Bye. See you, team.
Back pedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it! Zigzag, 10, 5, high step, touchdown! San Diego!
Woo! Good night! Good night to all!